I was forced to do what I thought was impossible. My choice saved me, but it destroyed everything I loved. Find out why. The ending will surprise you. 11 years is a long time to think you know someone, but looking back, I realize now that Lauren had been slipping away for longer than I wanted to admit. It started with small things. The way she stopped asking how my day went, how she stayed late at the shop without needing to, how her eyes drifted when I spoke, as if she was already living somewhere else. Still, we had our daughter, and we had the business we built from nothing. Solid wood and calloused hands, real things. We made custom furniture, one-of-a-kind pieces, just like the life I thought we were carving out together. I thought that made us unshakable. I was wrong. When she said she needed a month for herself in New York, I didn't argue. Her voice had that brittle edge, like any push would shatter something delicate. "I just want to understand who I am," she told me, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her purse. I nodded like a fool, said I'd hold things down here, told our daughter that mommy was just taking a little trip. I kissed her goodbye at the airport with this knot in my chest that wouldn't let up. The moment she disappeared through the terminal, it tightened. Something felt wrong. I told myself not to overthink it, but then the envelope came. It was a bland, brown mailer like any other, stuffed between a pile of bills. At first, I didn't even notice the sender, but when I tore it open, a receipt slid out. Sleek white paper, black ink, and a number that made my breath stop. A month's rent on a penthouse in SoHo. Paid in full. The name of the leasing company was fake. I knew because I searched every New York registry I could find, and there was no business by that name. But the charge, that was real. It had been paid from our business account, one of the cards only she had access to. The burn started in my throat and crawled down into my gut. That's when I knew. Whatever she went to New York to find, it wasn't herself. I didn't tell her I knew. I just let her keep sending those carefully worded texts. "Thinking of you. Miss our daughter's laugh. Hope business is okay." They came like clockwork, sugary on the surface but hollow underneath. Every time she wrote, I stared at the screen like it might reveal more than she wanted it to. I stayed polite, replied like nothing was wrong, but I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. So I booked a ticket and told everyone at the shop I had a meeting with a new supplier. No one questioned it. I packed a bag, left our daughter with my sister, and landed in New York just past noon on a Wednesday. That night I went looking. The building wasn't hard to find. I'd memorized the address. 5-star security, lobby marble so polished you could see your soul in it. I didn't try to go in. Instead, I found a cafe across the street and settled into a corner booth with a direct line of sight to the entrance. Hours passed. The buzz of conversations around me faded into white noise. Then she appeared. Lauren, my wife, pink dress I'd never seen before, heels too high for walking. She stepped out of the building like she belonged there, like she'd been there all along. She wasn't alone. A man followed, tall, dark suit, expensive shoes. His hand was already on her lower back before the door closed behind them. They crossed the street, entered the same cafe I was sitting in, and slid into a table only feet away from mine. She never even saw me. He touched her like I hadn't in months. Soft, familiar, possessive. She laughed in that high, flirty tone she used to save for private moments. When his hand slipped beneath the table, I saw her knee jerk slightly, and then she leaned in closer. I sat frozen, phone in hand, and started taking pictures, one by one. Their smiles, the way he cupped her chin, the kiss. That night she texted, "I miss you." I stared at the message for a long time, then dragged the new photo folder into a secure drive, entitled it Property. She had no idea she just lost the ground under her feet. By the time I flew back home, my hands were already moving faster than my heart. I didn't tell anyone what I'd seen. I went straight to our accountant and made the transfer. 60% of our assets into my sister's name. Legally protected, irrevocable. Then I got access to the shop's digital banking. I installed monitoring, backdoor alerts, AI keyword tracking, anything to flag suspicious activity. Within a week, the alerts lit up like fireworks. She was bleeding the business dry. It wasn't just the penthouse. There were transfers to a visa processing agency, payments to a boutique lawyer in Manhattan who specialized in immigration, and a scanned document that made my blood boil, a marriage certificate listing her as the fiancée of a man I now recognized. The same one from the cafe. French. Married, if the research I was doing behind the scenes was right. Lauren was forging documents to help him stay in the country. It wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. She had turned our business into a front for his illegal immigration scam. I stopped sleeping entirely after that. Every night I sat in our living room, watching that folder of images and receipts grow, wondering how deep the hole really went. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the way she smiled in those pictures. Light, free, like I'd never been part of her world at all. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because now I had more than suspicion. I had leverage. And I was going to use every piece of it. Lauren returned from New York like she hadn't just nuked our life. She waltzed through the door with that fake sunshine in her voice, talking fast, kissing our daughter like nothing had changed. I watched her closely, every move, every word, waiting for some crack in her act. But she played it smooth. She even laughed with me at dinner that night, like we were still the same couple who once built a business from our garage, sweating over sawdust and late bills. What she didn't know was that I already had the truth in my back pocket, and every fake smile she gave me made the fire in my chest burn hotter. I didn't confront her. I made plans. That weekend, I invited her parents over for a family dinner. She lit candles, made her favorite wine sauce, acted like it was some kind of reunion. Then after dessert, I pulled out my laptop and connected it to the projector. "Let's watch something about honesty," I said, and hit play. First came the photo of the penthouse rental, then the cafe pictures. Her in that pink dress, with the French guy's hand on her knee. Then the kiss. Then the visa payments. The forged marriage certificate. Everything rolled out in high definition. Her parents sat frozen. Her father stood and walked straight out without a word. Her mother barely whispered, "Is this true?" But Lauren just stared at the screen, pale, mouth slightly open. She didn't deny a thing. I closed the laptop slowly and said, "The next video is for court." She still didn't speak. The silence was louder than anything she could have said. 2 days later, the IRS showed up at our store. She'd filed a false report, accused me of fraud, of skimming from the company. She thought it would slow me down, maybe even scare me into silence. What she didn't know was that I'd already handed everything over to my lawyer weeks earlier. I'd pre-filed all our taxes and flagged every transfer she'd made. I even gave them a copy of a voice recording. Lauren during a fight hissing, "If there's a divorce, I'll make sure you go to jail." That alone shifted everything. The agents left with more questions about her than me. Her play had failed before it even started. The real punch came a week later. I found her in the shop's back office, hunched over the computer. She didn't hear me at first, too busy rereading emails. Dozens of them, all sent to him. No replies, just silence. She looked up with red eyes and said, barely above a whisper, "He's not answering." She didn't say his name. She didn't have to. I already knew the French guy had ghosted her. He was gone. Then came the letter from Paris. A woman named Clemence said she was his wife. Thanked me for the photos, said he'd pulled this scam before. Fake love, fake fiancé, fake future. She said Lauren had been nothing but another pawn. The last line hit like a hammer. If she's pregnant, it's not his either. That night, Lauren sat across from me, hands trembling, and said, "I'm pregnant." Her voice was dry, her eyes begging for a reaction. I just nodded. No shock, no questions. Just, okay. Because I already knew. I'd tested the DNA. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't his. She had no idea I'd been 10 steps ahead the whole time. The next morning, I handed her custody documents. She barely read them, just signed. She thought it was a show of trust, a gesture to win her back. But I'd just taken full custody of our daughter, and Lauren had no clue she'd already lost everything. After she signed the custody papers, I watched Lauren walk around the house like a ghost, half present, dragging her fingertips across old photo frames, staring out windows she never used to notice. She still wore makeup every day, still put on her jewelry like armor, but her voice was quieter now, more cautious, like she wasn't sure how much I actually knew. She must have sensed the balance had shifted, even if she didn't understand why yet. Every morning she tried to start conversations about our daughter, about the shop, about some future she clearly thought was still possible. I let her talk. I let her believe I might still be in reach. She kept glancing at my phone, watching my screen reflections when I answered emails. I caught her once in the office, pretending to look for a receipt while scrolling my folders. She was searching for something, anything to regain control. But I had stripped that from her the moment she signed away custody. I kept my evidence where she'd never reach it. And while she circled in confusion, I was already tightening the noose. A week after her fake pregnancy announcement, she tried a new move. She came into the shop with 2 coffees, handed me one with this practiced tenderness, like we hadn't burned down everything between us. Then she said she wanted to talk about healing. I nodded slowly, let her fill the silence with shallow words and guilt-laced half-apologies. But the moment I asked about the visa transfers, where the money actually went, she froze, blinked twice, then faked confusion. That was all I needed. I'd recorded the entire thing. Later that night, I uploaded the file to my legal archive, next to the audio of her threats and the forged documents. I didn't need to confront her anymore. I was just collecting, building the wall around her one brick at a time, and she was still walking right into it. That weekend, I got another letter. This one wasn't from Paris. It was from a local immigration official. Anonymous, typed, no return address. Inside was a scanned document, Lauren's forged marriage certificate, submitted as part of the French guy's visa application. But someone had flagged it. They'd included a copy of his original marital records from France, proving he never filed for divorce. That made Lauren an accomplice to fraud, maybe even conspiracy. The letter ended with a warning. If this reaches court, she'll be charged. I stared at the paper for a long time, my fingers tight around the edge. Then I slid it into my drawer with the rest. That night, Lauren didn't come home. She didn't answer my calls, didn't check in on our daughter. Around midnight, I finally drove past the old warehouse we once used for storage, just on instinct. And there she was, sitting in her car, alone. No music, no lights, just staring through the windshield like she was waiting for something to wake her up. I didn't get out. I just watched from a block away, headlights off. I don't know how long she sat there, but when she finally drove off, I followed at a distance. Not to scare her, just to know where she went. She ended up at a cheap motel just outside town. The next morning, she walked into the shop like nothing happened. No mention of where she'd been, no explanation. But her mascara was still smudged, and her smile was a little too forced. She asked about our daughter, asked if I needed help with orders, asked what I was planning for the next shipment. I answered everything calmly, kept things professional, cold, and I could see it finally sinking in. That whatever game she'd been playing, it wasn't working anymore. That I wasn't going to yell or cry or beg. I was just going to keep watching her sink. 2 days later, she tried one last card. She showed up with her hair down, wearing the necklace I gave her our first anniversary, said she wanted to fix things, said she'd made mistakes, but we could still fight for this. I nodded, told her I needed time to think. She smiled, maybe even believed it for a second. But that afternoon, I had a meeting with a real estate lawyer. I was dissolving her rights to the company property next, and she still hadn't figured out how far she'd already fallen. I kept the rhythm steady, business as usual by day, silent dismantling by night. Lauren still came into the shop, still tried to hover near my workbench like it meant something. She asked questions she already knew the answers to, brought up old memories at random, and left little notes around the office, like she thought nostalgia might reverse gravity. But there was no going back. Not now. The shop was mine in every real way. I had already filed the papers that removed her ownership stake, quietly, legally, with the help of a lawyer who didn't flinch when I handed him the evidence. The contracts we'd signed years ago gave me an exit strategy, and I was walking it with cold precision. Lauren hadn't seen the paperwork yet. I kept the notifications off her email, blocked her digital access, and rerouted every incoming message to a dead inbox she didn't know existed. Meanwhile, I rebranded the business accounts, changed passwords, shifted all client interactions to my new team. She was technically still listed as a partner, for now, but she was already erased in practice. I was stripping her out of our legacy one document at a time, and she was too busy trying to play wife again to notice. But something changed that week. Her movements got sharper, desperate. She started making phone calls at odd hours, locking herself in the bathroom, whispering behind closed doors. I traced one of the numbers, an immigration attorney in Brooklyn. That confirmed what I suspected. She was still trying to salvage something with the French ghost who'd vanished on her. Maybe she thought if she fixed his visa mess, he'd come back. Or maybe she was terrified of the fallout if the fraud case caught up to her. Either way, she was chasing a phantom. Then just as I was tightening the last screw on the business transfer, I got a call from the front desk. A woman had arrived at the store asking for me, said she had information about my wife. I came out expecting a private investigator, or maybe someone connected to Clemence, but the woman wasn't anyone I'd seen before. She introduced herself as Elise, said she used to work at the same immigration office Lauren had been dealing with, told me she'd seen my wife more than once, often with a man, French, charming, and definitely married. Then she handed me a flash drive and said, "He did this before. She's not the first." And then she left, just like that. I didn't wait. I plugged it in the second I got back to my office. The footage was raw, low-res, grainy security camera footage from the agency. Lauren sitting in a waiting area, talking animatedly with the same man from the cafe. One clip had her signing forms, the same ones I now had digital copies of. Documents tied to a marriage that never existed. Another showed them hugging, then her handing him a brown envelope. Cash. The timestamp matched a withdrawal from our account. I cross-referenced everything. It lined up perfectly. I could feel the case building around her like concrete setting in. That night, I printed stills from the footage and added them to my file. A thick manila folder now sat inside my safe, labeled with her name. Not for revenge, not yet, but for timing. And timing was almost perfect. She must have sensed the shift again, because the next morning she tried being sweet. Made breakfast, hugged our daughter too long, sat across from me at the table, her eyes glassy, pretending like she wasn't hiding the storm building behind them. Then she said it. "I want us to start fresh." I stared at her for a moment. She waited, hopeful. So I said, "Okay." Her eyes lit up. She smiled, reached for my hand, but I pulled away gently, stood up, and walked out without another word. Because I had just filed the final motion, full legal control of the shop. The paperwork would land on her desk in 2 days. She'd see that her name, her access, her legacy in the business we built together was gone. The day it arrived, she didn't come into work. She didn't call. She didn't text, just disappeared again. But this time, I knew where to look. I checked her laptop. She'd left it logged in. There in her open tabs was a psychiatric clinic's website, intake forms, insurance pre-approval, messages unsent, and one draft email addressed to me. The subject line read, "I need help." The body was empty. I stared at it for a while, reading between the lines. She wasn't just losing everything. She was coming apart, and she didn't know the worst was still ahead. The silence stretched for days. No calls, no appearances at the shop. Not even a check-in about our daughter, who'd already stopped asking when her mom was coming home. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. Lauren had backed herself into a corner so tight, every move she made now only cut her deeper. I let the shop run on schedule, oversaw deliveries, checked in with clients, and finished onboarding 2 new hires. On the surface, it was just business as usual. But behind the curtain, the final act was already in motion. Then, without warning, she showed up. It was a Thursday morning, cloudy, nothing special. I'd just opened the doors when Lauren walked in. No makeup, no polished persona. Her hair unbrushed, hoodie pulled low over her eyes. She looked wrecked. No one else was in the store yet, so I didn't say a word. Just watched her stand there for a full minute, like she was trying to convince herself she had a reason to speak. Finally, she asked, "Can we talk?" I gestured toward the back, led her into the old design room, the one where we used to spend weekends planning builds and sketching out ideas we couldn't afford to make yet. She sat on the edge of the drafting table like it still meant something to her, but she couldn't hold eye contact. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a file. "I went to the clinic," she said. I took the folder without opening it. It had her name on the label, the letterhead from a local psychiatric facility. Admittance records. I flipped through them slowly, skimming details I already suspected. Paranoia, emotional instability, insomnia, possible delusional episodes. She sat there silent, staring at the floor like the folder weighed more than she did. Then she said it, soft, barely audible. "He left, took my passport, told me I was nothing." She didn't say his name. She didn't need to. I could already see the outline of what had happened. The French scam artist hadn't just ghosted her. He'd stripped her down and left her stranded. Maybe he sensed her unraveling. Maybe he knew she couldn't cover for him anymore. Or maybe he was always planning to vanish once her usefulness ran out. Whatever the reason, he was gone. And now Lauren was circling the drain alone. "I'm not pregnant," she added. I didn't flinch, just nodded once. She looked up fast, like she expected me to explode or break or scream. But I didn't give her anything, because I'd known for weeks. The DNA results were locked in my drawer, still untouched in their envelope. I hadn't needed to open them. Her body language, her timing, the panic in her voice when she said it the first time. It had all been a bluff, a last, desperate move. And now, like every other part of her plan, it had collapsed. "I just wanted something," she said. "I don't know what anymore." I let her sit with that. No comfort, no rescue. Later that day, I called my attorney, told him to finalize the paperwork for full control over the house. Lauren had signed most of the rights away during our last round of paperwork without even reading. It was practically a formality now. She was still legally tied to the address, but not for much longer. That weekend, I took our daughter to my sister's cabin. Just the two of us. We hiked, roasted marshmallows. I let her paint the trees on a canvas while I fixed the porch railing. She didn't mention Lauren once. Not even in passing. It hit harder than I expected. Kids know more than they say. And mine? She'd stopped believing in her mother's promises the moment they stopped meaning anything. When we returned home, I found a package on the doorstep. No name, no return label. Inside was a burner phone and a flash drive. I plugged the drive into my laptop, half expecting more surveillance footage or legal documents. Instead, it was a video. Lauren, filmed from the corner of a small white room. She sat in a plastic chair, eyes swollen, hands fidgeting in her lap. A staff member's voice off camera prompted her gently. "Just tell them what you feel." She nodded once, then looked straight into the lens. "I'm sorry. I ruined everything. I lied. I lied because I was scared he'd stop loving me." She choked on the words, tried to keep speaking, but her voice cracked too hard to continue. The camera kept rolling, quiet for nearly a full minute. Then the feed cut out. I didn't touch the burner phone. Didn't call whoever sent it. It was clear now. She wasn't just broken. She was being watched. Someone inside that clinic, maybe someone with a conscience, wanted me to know just how far she'd fallen. That night, I sat in the office with the store's books open in front of me. We were up 22% in profits since she'd left. The chain expansion was finally moving. New clients, bigger contracts. I'd pulled the business out of the wreckage she left behind. I was moving forward, stronger, sharper, focused. But the wreckage still smoldered behind me, and something told me it wasn't done burning yet. Lauren wasn't gone, just circling in the shadows, unsure where to land. After the video from the clinic, I expected silence. But instead, she started slipping notes under the door. Little scraps of paper, always in the same handwriting I used to recognize instantly. "Can we talk? Please let me see her. I'm sorry." At first I ignored them, but when I caught our daughter quietly reading one of them in her room, I knew Lauren was no longer reaching for me. She was trying to get to her through me. I filed an immediate addendum to our custody agreement. It wasn't hard. Between the forged documents, the false pregnancy, and the mental health record, the case was already concrete. My lawyer had everything. The judge didn't even blink. Full custody stood. No contact unless I approved it. Lauren didn't know yet, but her last thread to our daughter had just snapped. Days later, she showed up at the shop again. Didn't come in, just stood outside in the rain, holding something wrapped in newspaper. She stayed for maybe 10 minutes, then walked off without looking back. When I opened the package, it was a box of old photos. Our early days, laughing, building, broke but in sync. I held one picture a little longer, me asleep on the shop floor, her coat over me. It wasn't regret I felt, just a reminder of how far I'd carried everything alone. Then came a call, from a Paris number I hadn't seen in months. It was Clémence, the French guy's wife. She told me he'd pulled another scam, this time in Belgium. Same method, same lies. But now Interpol was involved. She said Lauren's name was still attached to some of the immigration documents. She wasn't just collateral anymore. She was a suspect, and the case was gaining speed. That night I found a letter in the mailbox. Lauren's handwriting, no return address. Just a few lines. You were always stronger than me. I tried to make you need me so you wouldn't leave. I'm sorry. For all of it. I read it once. Didn't feel anger. Didn't feel sympathy. Just stillness. The war was over. She just hadn't realized yet that she'd lost everything. The next morning, a woman showed up for an admin interview. Her name was Iris. Late 30s, composed, sharp-eyed. She handed me her resume, then glanced at the newspaper clippings behind my desk. One headline from a local blog read, "Betrayal and a Furniture Empire's Rise." I read your story, she said. It's awful, but you survived. I looked her dead in the eye, then nodded once. I didn't just survive, I said. I rebuilt. And then I walked away, without needing to say anything more. It didn't end quietly, not with someone like Lauren. I thought maybe after the clinic, after the letter, she'd finally disappear into the fog she created. But the thing about people like her is they don't fade. They flare out. And when the final crash came, it hit like a hammer through glass. I was at the flagship shop working on a new custom order when I got the call. Not from her, from a journalist. Some freelancer digging into international visa fraud cases. His tone was dry, cautious, but the words came sharp. Your ex-wife's name came up in a French investigation. 2, actually. One tied to identity manipulation. The other, attempted asylum fraud. He didn't need much from me, just a comment. But the way he phrased it, I could tell he already knew more than he was saying. And Lauren? She was about to become very public property. Later that week, it hit the news. Not front page, yet, but loud enough. The Frenchman had fled again. Authorities suspected he was using women across Europe to set up false marriages, pocketing money, disappearing, then repeating the cycle. Lauren was named as an associated witness under possible investigation. I saw her mugshot online, exhausted, puffy-eyed, taken when she tried to re-enter the States from Montreal with a flagged passport. They didn't hold her, not yet, but her face was out there now. Her name tied to a scam, smeared across immigration watch lists. She wasn't just unraveling anymore. She was being erased, professionally, publicly. I didn't reach out. The same week the story broke, the business signed its biggest contract yet, furnishing a boutique hotel chain across the Midwest. I walked through our new warehouse with Iris, now part of my executive team, and watched crews load handcrafted pieces into shipping trucks bearing our logo. 11 years ago, Lauren and I couldn't afford a delivery van. Now the brand was bigger than us both. I took our daughter to see the first hotel we completed. She ran through the polished lobby, pointing at tables with her name etched into the underside. My new tradition, 1 signature per piece. She looked up at me and asked, "Will Mom see this too?" I paused, then told her the truth. Maybe, but even if she does, she's not part of it anymore. And my daughter nodded, quiet but understanding, like she'd already accepted something I spent years fighting to accept myself. The final message came 2 days later. Not a call, not a visit, a video sent from an anonymous account. Lauren again, not in a clinic this time, but sitting on the edge of a bed in some rundown apartment, curtains drawn, face pale, eyes bloodshot. She stared into the camera, like it was the last thing she had left to talk to. "I know I'm not getting out of this," she whispered. "He's gone. Everyone's gone. I don't even know who I am anymore. I lost everything. And I know it's because I destroyed the one thing that ever mattered. She tried to smile but couldn't hold it. Her voice cracked. You don't have to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But I wanted you to see what's left. Because this is all I have now. She reached forward and shut the camera off mid-sentence. The clip ended. No follow-up. No explanation. Just the last glimpse of someone who had nothing left to sell. No lies left to spin. I watched the video once. Just once. Then I deleted it. I walked out of my office through the hum of machines and voices, into the daylight where the world was still turning. My world. A world I'd rebuilt brick by brick, alone. From the ashes of everything she thought she could take with her, let her burn. Let the lies bury her. I already buried the past. And I was still standing. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.